Welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is an album review on Death in June's 1985 album, Nada. This is their third album. Um, basically, the main guy in this band, his name is Douglas Pierce. And he came from a punk band, UK punk band called Crisis in the late 70s, and then started Death in June around 1980. And they have sort of like they've kind of evolved their sound over the years from like a post-punk sort of new wave. This album a little bit adds probably a little bit kind of some industrial, almost EBM kind of feel. There's also, then they started a little bit of what they call neo folk music. Um, and then as their albums progressed through the 80s, they kind of got more into neo folk and kind of left the post punk and industrial sound in the background. And they're still doing music. Basically, Douglas is by himself after this album. He had a partner uh, through the first couple albums and until this album. Until after this album, excuse me. But yeah, we're going to go through song by song and review it and then rate each song and then rate the overall of the album. So, yeah, there's 10 songs on here. First song is The Honor of Silence. It's a good opener, kind of dramatic, horns and background vocals, acoustic guitar is all nice. It's kind of interesting sound. The acoustic guitar, along with a little bit of and kind of, I'd say it's more EBM than industrial because it's more towards new wave than very lightly towards new wave. It's more so than industrial. It's not as harsh, although the beats can be kind of more EBM. They're just a little bit more dancey than industrial. Maybe not as rigid as like industrial music would be in probably 1985. But Honor of Silence opening track, solid track. Really like it. 3 stars. The second track is actually my favorite. It's called The Calling, MK2 in parentheses. This is just an EBM killer. Just unforgiving, epic, melodic, killer bass line, nice atmosphere. The vocal goes great with it. It reminds me of a lot of Blancmange, Blind Vision. If you know that track, Blind Vision by Blancmange, came out the year before this, so I don't know if it inspired this sound, but it kind of reminds me of that. But man, just a killer track, 4 stars, just an excellent EBM track. Probably one of their best ones probably one of my favorite tracks they've done for sure. 3, Leopard Lord. There's some stuff that Death in June does that's, it's verging on, how should I say this lightly? It's verging on kind of like cryptic. There's some thought of like kind of Satanism along with their music, and the lead singer is denied Nazi involvement or Nazi sympathizing or even Nazi preaching and stuff like that. But they've had a lot of back and forth over the years with questionable lyrics and questionable songs. And the imagery of the album is certainly has gotten a lot of scrutiny, and that's kind of been probably the biggest thing is kind of the scrutiny over the artwork and the logos that they consistently use, which are borderline Nazism. And so it's take this album review with a grain of salt, and I don't get too much into that. I don't believe in music censorship. I also don't believe in hate. But it's difficult in music because you don't know if they're talking about in third person. You don't know if they're talking about are they glorifying it or are they just talking about it? Because if it's still an issue, and in 1985, this is before the Berlin Wall came down. There's still a lot of like it's just difficult times in Europe, especially. And I think these guys came from Belgium, so they're right on the, Belgium and Germany were, especially in electronic music, are very tied to each other, especially in the in the early 80s and through the 80s, just with EBM music and industrial stuff. I mean, they're tied at the hip, especially with techno and even trance. But so the sound is of German, and so it's with the imagery and stuff like that, they get a lot of like you know suspicions of Nazi sympathizing and stuff like that. I'm not too up on all of the reasons why, or particular songs that they've done or imagery or whatever, but it mostly has to do with a couple logos that they use. I don't. I guess it's this logo up here, and and I don't. Obviously, it's a very dark album cover as well. So it has that kind of mysticism, almost Satanism feel in some of their songs, and that's where I get into a song like Leopard Lord, which is track 3, and I'm just like, whatever. I can kind of escape to music and not really read into it too much and just kind of listen to music. I don't really listen to all the lyrics. So they could be saying something really crazy and I wouldn't really even know or really care. And I'll be like, oh, I like the music. And then somebody else will be like, you know what they're talking about, right? And I'm like, no. You know what I mean? Like, this is the band that I like their sound. I don't love their sound. I only really like their couple albums in this time period. I don't follow neo folk and I don't follow the band and I don't pretend to know even a quarter of all the music that they've done. But I do like a couple albums that they have. And this being one of them. And not everything on the album. This is a perfect example. I go from a 4-star song, The Calling, to Leopard Lord is like some kind of like 1.5 minute folk song that I don't even know what they talk about, nor do I care. If I like the music, I might listen to it. If I don't, I won't. So I can kind of, you know, uh, what do you call it, subtract myself or my opinions and just still get into music. Like, it's always been like that with me. I can listen to, I was heavy into hip hop when I was, 10 years old to 18. Liked a lot of hip hop. I've liked a lot of different styles, punk music. And there's always kind of like a lot of storytelling and talking about racism and stuff like that and police brutality and the government and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And even Satanism and stuff like that. So it's not like new to me, but I can kind of still look at it as like as artistic and sort of take out that portion. I know people that probably really know Death in June. Most of the people defend them for the most part. Some people don't, but they I find it interesting. This, but it's a lot of imagery. And there's a lot of imagery that kind of think that they're kind of promoting Nazism or Satanism or something like that, but they don't really like say for sure. So it's a lot of I don't know, maybe they do say it more because I don't know everything, but it's just I can kind of still look at it artistically and use it for the merit that it is and play the stuff that I like and if it was a song that I liked and it was obvious what they said in it I didn't like or I didn't agree with, I would probably not listen to that. But for the most part I can kind of take out certain things. Like, I mean, obviously there was the time of hip hop when it was super raunchy, like Two Live Crew and I still like the beat and the music. I just not really listen to the lyrics, even though sometimes you would sing the lyrics, you wouldn't really like. Yeah, I think it's really important to be, because nobody wants censorship in music and nobody wants censorship in art and nobody wants censorship, in movies or what have you, right? You don't want censorship. But in order, I think the give and take when not having censorship is you have to be um, understanding of the artistic perspective, I suppose. You can't just be like, you can't judge for other people on what might be art or what may not be art for somebody else, right? So it's you have to take everything with a grain of salt and not get too heavy into it, and but also look at it as like you're educating yourself. You know what I mean? Like if it was Satanism or if it was um, Nazism, right? I think it's important to learn about that stuff so you can identify it and so you can know what it's about instead of just like anything cultural, religious, or something like that. You want to understand it, right? So you can have an opinion on it, and you can't just say something is something because it has a certain imagery about it. So that's what that's all I really have to say about Death in June. As far as like the anybody who sees this video and might think it's I'm honoring the band by having this video or something like that. I'm just reviewing the music and talking about it, and I don't know all about it. All the history of the band, and I don't pretend to even seen a video or read anything that the lead singer has said. I just listen to some of the albums and I critique some of the albums, and I have some of the albums, and I don't have a lot of them. I only have like two or three albums of theirs. I think two, and they're all of this period. So I don't know to what extent it all is and stuff like that. But I just don't believe in music censorship. I think that's the most important thing, and because I think this was the album that was banned in Germany. I think it was the Brown Book. The two albums after this, it was banned in I think Denmark and Germany, if I'm not mistaken. They couldn't even sell it in that country. So you know say what you want, but if you can't print music, like okay, it's hateful music, but I mean I don't know. It's really hard to like what's art and what's propaganda. It's just really difficult. If it's in a music form, is it art or could it be propaganda? It's a fine line, and I think most people, especially music people, would think that let the people choose in whatever it is that's released. It just be I think there's just a slippery slope of banning everything that somebody and anybody could feel like it was detrimental or needs to be banned. It's just a slippery slope. So moving on. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Hopefully, it is what it is. Track number 4, Reign of Despair. This is a sick beat. EBM I love this one. This one's haunting, really dark. It's a really cool track. I got it 3 stars. Also, Foretold, track number 5 is really cool. I got 3.5 stars. I really like the beat. Also, it's really wicked. Nice vocal, darker rhythm. Really cool. 6, Behind the Rose. Not bad. I give it 1.5 stars. 1.5 stars. Can't really say anything great or bad about it. She Said Destroy. It definitely has like a neo folk darkness to it. It's musical and not bad. It's a good track. I got 2 stars. Carousel was a good mix of EBMB and sort of acoustic guitar, which they did in The Honor of Silence, the first track. Vocals are pretty good here. 2 stars. Track number 9, C'est un Rêve, I believe it is. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't. This is kind of when they're borderline, like I don't know what they're talking about in here. This one's kind of very vague and just doesn't do much. So I didn't give it any stars. I gave it 0 stars. Just I don't know. It doesn't relate to me. Number 10, Crush My Love. Very nice melody. Has sort of a horror story to it. Kind of has like a tubular bells sound to it because it's kind of a recurring kind of bells sound, like maybe like Halloween or something like that, like the theme song. Kind of has like a tubular bells kind of feel to it. But I really like this track too. It's 3 stars. When I look at the overall rating, you know, or the overall good, it's a mixed bag because the neo folk songs don't do anything for me. You know, there's two or three songs on here that really don't do much for me at all. A couple okay ones, and then there's five that are good. You know, that I think are very good. And those are the ones that sort of have the EBM more dancey beat. His voice goes great with that sound. It's too bad that they kind of left that sound and sort of went on to neo folk, because I really feel like, man, they were really good at that. And I don't really know the neo folk stuff they did after the middle '80s, so I can't really judge to say if it was a better decision in my opinion. But you know, they're gonna do what they want to do, so it's all good. But yeah, just overall the good. I really like the sound. The beat machines are cool. I mean, it has really like a vintage kind of EBM feel. It's really cool sounding. It's really produced well for what the equipment is. It's mixed well. It's it's great to play out. You know, it's got a like the some of the EBM beats are really tight and really aggressive. Super cool. It's hard to compare it to really anything else. You know, it's just really unique sounding. When I think of the opportunities, you know, just I'm not in a neo folk. You know I'm not a neo folk, and I don't even fully know what I can sort of understand what neo folk is, and I've read up on it a little bit, but you know, it's kind of vague. You know, and but I can tell which ones are neo folk on here, and you know, they don't really do anything for me. So that's kind of a big subtraction from my like of their music, because I don't like that style. But for the times when they do more dance music, I really like it. But I do respect the neo folk stuff they do on here. I mean, the quality of it, you know, it's just, you know, it's just not for me, not my thing. And it's not the reason why I bought their music. Is I bought their music because of the more new wave side. But overall, I think it's a good album. You know, the good outweighs the bad, and the sound of this album is just amazing too. Especially the dance songs, again, just amazing sound. But overall, I gave it a 65 out of 100. You know, there's one excellent track, three very good tracks, and a couple good ones. You know, three that are okay or less. Or sorry, two that are less. Yeah, two that are okay or less. Sorry, three. So you know, it's a mixed bag, but the good stuff is very good for sure. And I gave the album a 65 out of 100. I really like the sound of this album. It's too bad that they can make a full EBM album out of this and then also kind of continue on from the sound. But it is very early 80s ish. You know, that 83, 84, 85 kind of EBM sound. This is a good album in that genre. But yeah, that's my review on Death in June's 1985 album, Nada. All right, thanks for listening.